this very clearly is India's moment and India emerging as a major player on the world stage. Is that making expansionist forces rather uncomfortable? Prime Minister Narendra Modi has repeatedly said that the world is large enough for all to grow and prosper together. And that explains India's civilizational philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But is China not comfortable with this? Joining me on India First is Lieutenant General Satish Dua, former Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff. Also with me is a seasoned diplomat, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. And Ambassador Sajjanhar, I want to begin by asking you, sir, what do you make of this suspense around President Xi Jinping, whether he's coming or not for the G20 summit?
I guess the Chinese are waiting till the last minute to send out this message, although we've had reports coming out of Beijing. And there is also circumstantial evidence that since the Chinese Premier will be participating in the East Asia Summit in Jakarta, and so the same team is coming here for the security recce, etc. So it appears that it'll be the Chinese Premier who will be coming for the G20 summit, but officially there has been no word. So I think the maybe similar reason why in the case of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we decided to go virtual because we had, that's what's reported, we did not get a confirmed response from China on time. So here also maybe China wants to delay it to the extent possible, and the last minute maybe they will come out and say that President Xi Jinping is not coming. One of the reasons being that this maybe would embarrass India, that one of the big players is not participating. But, you know, there could be other, definitely other reasons for his not coming also. Gaurav.
Okay. General Dua, exercise Trishul at the borders covering both the LOC and the LAC with the Rafales, the Mirages, the Su-30 MKIs, the AWACS all in the sky. Is that standard operating procedure, or, you know, with so many heads of state, so many heads of government being in India at that point of time, our assets, their assets, they would all be looking at everything to ensure foolproof security. But what do you make of the exercise happening at that time, coinciding with the G20 summit from the 4th to the 14th, this exercise Trishul?
Gaurav, this is a summer season, and during summers, we carry out many maneuvers on the LAC. And these activities have been heightened since the last 3 years, ever since Galwan clashes happened in 2020. So our heightened maneuvers on the LAC are given during summers. I mean, it happens from both the sides. It is not only to showcase our prowess or our platforms, it is also to actually carry out exercises, coordination, and live training on the actual battlefield, so to say. So, to my mind, I would perhaps not link it so much with the G20 summit or any other international diplomatic meeting that is going on. Yes, it is only natural that if we wanted to tweak the dates a little bit to make sure that it happens when everyone is here, so that we showcase and everyone looks at it. I mean, those are statements and signals that are being sent out.
Okay, Ambassador Sajjanhar, Chinese President Xi Jinping, he went to Johannesburg for the BRICS summit, but wasn't there to deliver that key business forum address that was delivered by the Chinese Commerce Minister. But there were some references, some indications that seemed to indicate that tensions between the United States and China were high. The relationship is strained. You know, the fact that some countries were being accused of stalling growth, you know, ensuring the economy does not flourish, emerging markets do not emerge. Does that explain Xi Jinping's actions in some ways?
You know, Gaurav, you've been dealing with China and Chinese issues for very, very long. And you know that the Chinese are very inscrutable. You know, we could speculate, we could try to guess as to what is the reason behind the Chinese president or the Chinese state doing what it does. But it's very difficult to come to some, you know, absolutely conclusive decision, even as far as our own, in April 2020. Why did the Chinese come with all these 50, 60,000 troops on our line of actual control? Why did they have to put in all these, heavy armory equipment, these aircrafts, base them so very close in gross violation, total violation of their agreements in 1993 and 96. So, about 10 reasons have been given, but till date, we have really not been able to decipher as to what exactly is the rationale of the Chinese. So here also, I could give you another 5, 6 reasons as to why, Xi Jinping
None of
did
them
not
seem
come
to
for the
make
business
China
forum.
come out smelling of roses or come, to appear in good light. Chinese actions, whether along the line of actual control in 2020 or the choreographic aggression of China, whether it's at the LAC or with Taiwan or with in ASEAN countries. I mean, why would China do that with the whole world looking at China with suspicion? Ambassador Sajjanhar, you first and then General Dua.
I think China should be, the Chinese leadership should be writing a book on how to destroy friendship and lose influence in countries, because that is what they seem to be doing. Because it's not only India which has reacted very strongly against this cartographic aggression, but it is also Vietnam, it's also Philippines, it's also Malaysia, it's also Indonesia, all the big players as far as ASEAN is concerned. And they have come out openly and they have said that in the South China Sea, it is the UNCLOS 1982, those provisions should apply, and the Permanent Court of Arbitration decision ruling of 2016, that should apply.
Yes.
So I think by making this, and what, China has the audacity to tell India that you should not overinterpret, you should not overreact, this is a routine thing. Recall how China had reacted when India had issued a map in 2019 after we
Yes.
had reconfigured the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And that was nothing new. It was only an internal reconfiguration. There was no impact at all on our external boundaries. And still the sort of vitriolic response that we had received from China. And right now, meaning they are hiving off 93,000 square kilometer of territory of Arunachal Pradesh. And they say that, you shouldn't overreact. And
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, General Dua, China can write a book on how to lose friends and how to lose influence globally. The world is looking at China with suspicion at a time when the Chinese economy is facing very strong headwinds. Is President Xi Jinping on top of the game at home? There are several reports. One, given the foreign minister had to be changed, given there are some fissures in the rocket force in China. General Dua?
Let me start by taking you away from this only to come back to it. When Russian President Putin says he's not going to Johannesburg or he's not coming to Delhi to attend these summit meetings, he has a reason. There is a war going on, and he says that because of special operations, my foreign minister will represent me. But for the Chinese head of the state to say that he is not going to be there, I mean, as it appears by now, they haven't said it so clearly. But if he does not come for a summit head and a summit meeting, that too, last week he has been already in Johannesburg, he has attended a meeting. So it obviously is a signal, is a statement, whether he's trying to embarrass India by not being there for this meeting, or he's trying to avoid a meeting with the American President Joe Biden, because it is largely expected that they'll come face to face. And so, or whatever else is the reason, it's a signal that he's sending. What does it show? Does it really show, and that's where you're coming to your question, is he on top of things, or is he behaving, or is China behaving like a responsible superpower that they aim to be? I mean, they have a stated aim to replace US as a sole superpower. So superpowers, big powers don't behave irresponsibly like this.
Okay. Ambassador Sajjanhar, should President Xi not come, does that take away from India's G20 presidency, considering, one, this isn't a bilateral, you have 20 heads of state and government who will be here, the fact that India's emerging as this voice of global south, India's talking about this permanent seat for the African Union at G20, all of this shows India as a rising global power and China as some kind of a sulking country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're very right. I don't think it's going to take away anything from India's presidency of the G20 because, you know, right from the beginning, we have been saying that we don't want to focus on geopolitical issues. We don't want to focus on the politics of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, as some of the countries want it to be done. G20 is basically an economic organization, and there are so many problems, economic problems and financial problems that the whole world is facing, particularly developing countries are facing. You know, in the wake of COVID-19 for the last 3 years, in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, what we have been seeing, whether it is the food shortages, fertilizer shortages, fossil fuel, debt, rising inflation, supply chains, etc., that we need to focus on that so that we can give some succor, some relief to the developing countries. Now, if Mr. Xi Jinping was there, and, you know, I agree with General Dua when he says the focus would be on the bilateral between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping, on the bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping. What have they said? What have they not said? What is the body language, etc.? And, you know, you will be taking the focus away from what we wanted, that it should be economic issues, the expansion of G20 by inclusion of the African Union as the 21st member, etc. We want to focus on that. So I think the absence of Xi Jinping in that sense will make it much easier for us to deal with these situations. And I think he is doing us a great favor by staying away. Gaurav.
Okay, though it remains to be seen what's the last word on that. But Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar and General Dua, as always, many thanks for joining me here on India First.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.